Gundam.tk presents 1/100th Neo Gundam. Hey, what's up everybody? It's Robert184, 2Rs, 2Bs from GundamReviews.net, and it's always fun for me to go back and build old school kits. I'm talking about the Neo Gundam from all the way back in 1992 from, yes, Mobile Suit Gundam Silhouette Formula 91 in UC0123. Anyway, I've already taken quite a look at this, but it's always fun for me to go back and compare these old school kits. It sort of feels like archaeology. Two kits today, and it's sort of cool to have a few contemporary frames of references as well in the form of the Silhouette Gundam and the F90. Anyway, without further ado, here's my list of all the bad things, so hopefully you can avoid some of these or ignore them, and the list of the good reasons why you may want to pick up this kit and add it to your collection. To kick things off with the negatives, first of all, at 1700 yen, this just kind of seems a little bit pricey for a 1992 kit. When you consider that you can be picking up master grades for 2500, never mind real grades today, that you can get any one in the set, it just seems that being a little bit more pricey than the Silhouette Gundam, which was 1400, even though you are getting more plastic, I suppose, in terms of just the fact that you're going to need the parts for the core fighter and for the G-Bird, but overall it just strikes me as being pricey, and that may be a turn-off for some people. Something else that's a big problem though is just the old school manual. These old school manuals are not very clear, they're not very detailed, and they're going to tell you where to put the seals on in about 15 different places. Sometimes you're going to be building the arm and all of a sudden they're going to say put a seal on the chest. And then you go to the back where they're supposed to tell you where to put on most of the seals and you'll see that they're not all on there. Overall, it's just poorly designed, and it's the kind of thing that you'd, well, pretty much expect for a 1992 kit. You're just going to have to work your way around it if you want to. Of a bigger issue though, of something that you, if you're not going to paint it, that's a big issue, is just in terms of the quality of the plastic. This is old plastic, it's cheap plastic, it's going to look very different from a master grade in a white Gundam today. You can just see it pretty much all around, and when you're going to cut things off, you're also going to have a little bit of flaking all around the side, so you're going to have to get your modeler's knife in there to clean it all up before you put it together. Otherwise, you're going to have some pretty nasty surprises all around. Now, one big issue for me, especially up there, is I talked about the red jewel, where this was a multicolored part. It was molded in white and yellow, and then you're going to take all of the white and you're going to have to cover it up with two ugly red seals. And I think that the jewel part, being the most important, the focal point of every Gundam, especially under the V-fin, the V-fin is a little bit dull, and I have to say that the seals are actually going to look pretty good, but you're going to have to work hard to get them on there properly, and it would have been so much easier if it had just been molded properly in yellow and red only, which is something that's certainly possible with the A-plate and the way they had done it. Now for the seals themselves, you're going to love some of them and you're going to hate some of them, and that's because some of them are cut to the perfect size and some of them are not. Also, just in the way that Bandai perforated them, when you go to cut them out, every once in a while you're going to tear some off or you're going to have some ugliness happen. So it's the kind of thing where you're going to want to go through there with a modeler's knife and cut them all out nicely before you try to remove them. And basically just look at the surface that you're putting it on, and if it looks too large, well, it probably is. And that applies especially to some parts on the waist and the chest where you can really see the clear white part all around those seals, which is looking pretty bad. In terms of posing, yes, you can guess that this guy's going to be pretty terrible overall. The knees are for only 90, 70 for the arms, and the shoulders are hardly going to move. The head, surprisingly, being on a polycap, yeah, it's going to get you where you want it to go. But the bigger issues is going to be things like the shield, where there's really nothing you can do with it besides have it pretty much parallel to the ground. Because to do anything else, it's going to bump into that shoulder, and the shoulder looks good. It's just poor design to have a Gundam that big, and they are going to give you two of these shield generators. You'd think that the larger one would fix something, but instead, it fixes absolutely nothing. In terms of the GBRD and its big weapon, when you're looking down there, I'd say that if it had that third color in there in plastic form, when you've got the core fighter on top of it, I think it's going to look great because it's got all sorts of colors, but when it's by itself, just having the white and the gunmetal is going to look a little bit dull. Two pieces of blue plastic being anywhere in there, and I think would have made a huge difference. And never mind that when it shows it in the kit, it's actually got a little bit more white back there applied instead of the gunmetal, and if it just alternated instead of just having a block of gunmetal at the back, white and gunmetal at the front, I think that it could have looked a lot better. But besides that, I would have to say that there are a lot of positives to go along with this kit as well. And let's start at the very beginning. When you're going to take it out of the box, yes, you're paying 1700 yen, but when you do, I have to say that at first inspection I was very pleased with these plates, starting with the very cool with the injection here on the A plate. You've got the four colors going in there, crisscrossing all over the place, multi-injecting themselves into all sorts of parts, and I think that's great, and none of the things were repeated from the Silhouette or the Cluster Gundam or anything like that. which is always great to see. And something else that actually made me really happy with this right out of the box is just this bonus MS handbook. And this is the kind of thing where MAHQ gets great information about MSVs and all sorts of other things. And without things like this prior to the internet, what other way was there for people to find out about this? And it's just got some great designs by the great Kunio Okawara. And you've got all sorts of cool stuff, and it just sort of makes me want to go out and buy, and yeah, probably not go as far as paint. But anyway, there's just some great variations in here, information about Anaheim Electronics, SNRI, and basically how they all came to be in this whole mess that is F90, F91, and Silhouette Formula 91 and UC0123, and that book helps make it clear. In terms of the seals, I have to say that I'm not a big fan of seals on newer kits. I'm never going to be the kind of person who gets a Master Grade Unicorn and puts on all of those Katoki Hajime seals all over the place, even though I realize that when it's put on by a pro, they're going to look great. But for whatever reason, these old school ones, certainly it helps me that they're not water slides. I'm not going to deal with those just because of my laziness. But in terms of this one, when you're putting them on, the clear ones go on well and the silver-backed ones, they go on well. And I really say that they would add to the old schoolness. If you didn't put the decals on, I'd say that it would look really plain, never mind the fact that it would be missing out on that AFX, which is the key point to the Neo Gundam. But overall, I'd say that I'm 90% happy with the seals compared to the problems that you're going to get from them just being a little bit too large. In terms of the weapons, I'm actually really happy with the fact that they're going to give you 2 shield generators. If they're going to mold one special, why not mold the other? Yes, it's a little bit disappointing that you're not going to have this on the back part molded properly in yellow and red, but then again, you're never going to see it. You do have the 2 different lengths, and you can choose to put on whichever one you want with the shield and whichever one you want when it's shieldless. But I'm also really happy with the fact that you've got these parts plugged into the core fighter, and the fact that they're mobile, so you do have the white handles looking good when it's in MS mode, and you've got the clear beam sabers, which is a big plus on some other Gundams, where they just give you the lazy one-color beam saber, and that's just not going to happen here, and it's not going to be an issue. In terms of the beam shield and the beam sabers, and the fact that you've got the core fighter, the cockpit, and the green eyes, yes, black light is going to be your friend, similar to the Silhouette Gundam. You see it with some other kits like HDFC Master and Shining not lighting up under the black light. Incredibly disappointing, and it's just cool to see that these old school ones are going to, probably before they even imagined that Keitai or portable black lights were going to be accessible for very reasonable prices. Also, on terms of just its biggest features, I'm a huge fan of this core fighter for whatever reason. It's big, it's bulky, it's colorful, it's got color apps all over the place, and they're all looking good. The seals that go on are going to add to it. And it's the kind of thing where, because it's so easily playable, you just pop it off, flip up the nose, and everything about it, it's just the kind of thing where it's not a pain to deal with, and because it's not a pain to deal with, it's probably something that I'm actually going to use, and I'm quite happy to display this on top of the GBRD, which has to be one of the more intimidating weapons in terms of all of the lead Gundams, or the semi-leads, or whatever you want to call this one from the manga. And I gotta say that the combo of them together. So when you combine the fact that you've got some cool logos, cool looks, yes, bad posability, core fighter, and the GBRD, you can guess that I'm going to be giving a positive verdict to this. Yes, it's an old school kit, but every once in a while that's part of the charm when you go back and build something like in 1992. And if I go back and I compare it to the F90, there's just no comparison that the Silhouette and the Neo Gundam are a huge improvement over it in every way. Basically, everything about this kit, I'd have to say that I was pretty happy with, and all the problems, they're pretty much, you can get over it, I would say. In terms of displaying on the shelf, it's the kind of thing where it's colorful, it's fun, it has enough poses, and just the unique weapons and the shield, put a black light on it, and it's going to look fantastic, and I can't wait to add it to my other leads and quasi-leads. At the end of the day, though, that's just my opinion, so why don't you let me know about yours? If you don't have the attachment to this kit from reading the manga or anything like that, is it just looking too old school? Is there any point of picking up this compared to the RX-F91, the Silhouette Gundam, or the RX-F91 Kai or something like that? How does it stack up compared to the cluster, which I haven't built yet? Anyway, I'd love to hear from you with a comment down below. If you're a fan of G-Generation So, or you're a fan of the manga, I would say that it captures the power of the manga, and yes, the SD game. So it's the kind of thing that I'm happy to have, and I wonder if you would be as well. But how about future speculation? And this is the kind of kit, yes, it came out 20 years ago, and it's had no other releases other than the 1/100th non-grade, because this is before, well, no, that's not true, high grade existed, but anyway, grades were certainly not prevalent across the Bandai lines at the time. Anyway, we do have some other versions of this kit, and you can see that GFF and things like that, they're just made to sort of encapsulate kits like this. They haven't really caught on in terms of Robot Damashi or things like that. But ultimately, the dream for me, or for old school fans of like kits like this, would have to be a Master Grade 1/100th. and I just have to wonder if that's not a pipe dream. Anyway, why don't you let me know your speculation, but that's just mine. A master grade one day would be pretty amazing, but then again, we'd probably have to have something like a 2 or 3 kind of unicorn OVA before this would ever have a chance, I think, of getting a new model release. Anyway, everybody, thanks for watching. There's always going to be new reviews, old reviews, new kits and old kits, and can't wait to add. Anytime Bandai puts out a 1/100th lead-looking Gundam or a quasi-lead like this, of course I'm going to be happy to add it to my collection, but that's just me, so why don't you let me know what you think with a comment down below. Anyway, everybody, stay tuned. Lots more to come. Thanks for watching. Seriously, the guy's like in the shortest manga ever, and you want to call him a manga lead? I don't know. He's sort of got a cool shield.